have some insights to share with you today on Momentum Monday and some supercharged tips on how to train your brain to think more positively. Before I get into sharing those tips, and make sure you stay to the end to get all of the insights, I invite you to join the Supercharged Challenge, which is taking place right now. It's the September Positive Self-Talk Challenge, and I've been sharing quite a bit about this. And I'm doing this challenge over on Instagram. So if you're not following me on Instagram, I invite you to follow me at Emily the Entrepreneur on Instagram. And each day I'm posting a positive self-talk tip or message to kind of start this training process of our brain. So today I wanted to spend some time on what does that mean to train your brain. Is it just saying something, like just saying something positively, that's all you need to do? Or just wishful thinking, like saying, I am rich, and if I say I am rich, therefore I am rich. And that's not what this means. So there's a difference between positive self-talk and just having a fantasy or some kind of delusion. We're not encouraging delusional thinking here. We're talking about how to train your mind in a normal state of mind to work on your behalf, as opposed to working against you. And sometimes people use the terms self-sabotage, imposter syndrome, all these different phrases, really to mean that we are thinking in such a way that we really become our own worst enemy, if you will. So how do we do this? So first, let's start off, like, how do we start this whole training your brain? So again, there's a difference between positive self-talk and just having some wild wish. So when you have an intention to do something positively, you want to think positively, this is something you want to do, you plan to do, not just hope to do one day, somehow it will happen, and you're not taking any action towards that. The first step in the process of training your brain to be more positive is to change how you speak. That's like the first step, but there are other steps. So in the challenge, we're really focusing on just words. What are the words that we use when we speak to ourselves? And what words can we use instead? The whole reframing, rephrasing something. And to be aware, it's really a challenge of awareness. Like, are you aware of what you're saying to yourself? And so there are many layers involved in training your brain. You have your subconscious, you have all of this, and I'm not here to get into all those layers today. I'm just acknowledging that they exist, and there are, being aware that they exist lets you know what you're dealing with as far as changing how you speak, or why you even speak negatively in the first place. If you do, why do you? Where is that coming from? So that's where some of those layers come from. So just acknowledging that it could be many things have been built in, maybe how you were spoken to when you were younger, maybe what you were taught to believe about yourself, and all those things become embedded in your psyche and now become a way of life and a way of thinking that can really maybe potentially harm you. So one of the key, the first tip I want to share is knowing the difference. So the difference is that you have every intention to take action, to move forward, to have a more positive mind frame, and being aware that you could be trending negative, and if you are, how to shift over to positive. So that's the first thing you want to do when you're training your brain to think more positively. The second thing is be very, very careful when you use the expression I am. Whatever comes after I am becomes your identity. So be careful of saying things like I'm sick. Now, you could jolly well be sick, so we're not trying to tell you to be in denial that you're not sick, but you might want to try saying is I feel sick, I am feeling sick today or this week, but I am sick suggests that you're always sick, and you are sickness. You see, that becomes your identity. So you don't want to say that. You want to say things that reflect who you truly are. And you want to make the distinction between a circumstance or condition, a temporary circumstance or condition, versus something that's more permanent, which is your identity. And many times we use conditions and circumstances to describe something that's temporary, and then it becomes embedded in us as permanent. So when you say I am, be really, really mindful what follows that am, okay? Because that is who you are claiming to be and proclaiming to be and telling your mind who you are. So you literally absolutely train your brain to accept that fact of whatever comes after the word am. And also be mindful of if other people are telling you who you are and you don't necessarily agree. So don't let others dictate to you who you are. You let them know who you are. Amen. Can I get an amen? Yes, I think so. Okay. So the third thing is to remember that positive self-talk, it's a process. It's a process, and a part of the process is just, again, as I just said before, being aware of the words you're using and start to use different words. So for example, in the challenge this week, we had on day 14, it says the word of the day was think, because each day we have a letter of the day and a word of the day. And the message was, I train my mind to think positively. I train my mind to think positively. That means I don't just accept whatever thoughts come into my head and say, okay, that's the thought, I'll just take it and that's it. No, I'm going to train my mind how it's going to think. And if thoughts come into my mind that do not work for my benefit, then I'm going to do something about it. Yes, being proactive. And realize that you can't skip steps in this process. It took a long time to get to a certain place, and it might take a little time to get out of that place as well. But as entrepreneurs and people building businesses or just your own personal development, whether you have a business or not, you want to be cognizant of the process. And people get discouraged if they don't see the results they want as quickly as they want. Oh, I'm still too negative, or I'm not positive enough. Well, it takes time. So go easy on yourself. Give yourself some mercy there and some grace. All right, and let's see, what did I have here? Get used to saying and thinking positive things. Okay, so yes, getting used to saying and thinking positive things. Now, what tends to happen is if you don't see maybe a way out of a situation, or you don't know the solution to something, you may think, because I can't see it and I don't know it, then there isn't one. And then discouragement sets in, negativity sets in, and all the barrage of verbiage that comes from those things. I'm a failure, I can't achieve anything. And then you start identifying with these negative terms, and that embeds in your psyche, embeds in your brain, and down the hill you go with the negative thoughts. So we want to rephrase this by saying this: I may not know all the steps ahead of me, but I can take the next step or the first step, or I can get help to take that step, and then I'll take the next step and I will move forward. And as long as I'm moving forward, I'm making progress. And as long as I'm making progress, I'm being successful. And then you can declare, I am a success. You get what I'm saying? That is so important. And that changes your whole thought process. So you have the energy, you can supercharge your thinking to be indeed successful. And believe me when I tell you, this works, this works, this works. It really, really does, because it's like a domino effect. When you start to reprogram your thinking in this way, you start to see other things work. And just taking your time, being mindful of the process, and you'll do a lot better. So let's do a quick recap of some of these tips on how to train your brain. Okay, number one, you want to know the difference between just saying positive things or positive self-talk and, say, a fantasy. All right, just saying random things that maybe aren't real and will never be real, but they sound good. There's a big difference between it. We want to focus on what are the thoughts that you are saying and reverse them. The second thing is you want to be very mindful of what comes after the words I am, because that is your identity. And you want to make the distinction between a circumstance, a condition that's temporary versus something that's more permanent, which is like who you are. Then the third thing is the statement of I train my mind to think positively. I proactively I'm taking the initiative to make a difference. And one of the ways I'm personally doing that is through this challenge this month, because it's a great way to really focus on this. And I know it's been helping me, so I hope it's been helping you. And if you haven't joined the challenge, please do so at Emily the Entrepreneur on Instagram, and give me your feedback. Let me know your thoughts. What are some supercharged tips that you have to share to help you stay positive and overcome negativity? And then, so finally, remembering that self-talk, being positive with your self-talk, is a process that can take some time. You know, it may not happen in the 30 days. You may need longer for this to really kick into your psyche. But if you give yourself the time and the grace, it will happen. And then finally, getting used to saying things that are positive and moving you forward one step at a time, knowing that the process, as you take another step, that is progress. And when you progress, you succeed. Another amen. Yes, amen indeed. So that's what I have for you today on Momentum Monday. Please make sure you join the challenge, as I said, on Instagram at Emily the Entrepreneur. Check out prior Momentum Mondays on different topics that I'm talking about. Last time I spoke about what the Queen had to teach us about the 6 Ds, that lessons that she can teach entrepreneurs. So make sure you check out the blog, also on my website, emilymchugh.com, and stay up to date. And if you have not subscribed to my Supercharged Weekly newsletter, I encourage you to do that too. And if you sign up, you'll get a free gift, which has some positive mindset tips for you as entrepreneurs. And I highlight some of the traps we can fall into as entrepreneurs, and then how we can overcome those traps as well. Okay, so I hope you sign up for that. And until next time, stay supercharged. I'll see you on Instagram, and